Welcome to Real Estate Coaching Radio, starring award-winning real estate coaches and #1 international best-selling authors, Tim and Julie Harris. This is the #1 daily radio show for realtors looking for a no BS, authentic, real-time coaching experience. What's really working in today's market, how to generate more leads, make more money, and have more time for what you love in your life. And now your hosts, Tim and Julie Harris.
3, 2, 1, and we're back. And we are doing our podcast here in Taos, New Mexico. And we left Roswell, thank you, and left Roswell this probably about 5 hours ago, 4 hours ago.
Here's the proof.
Yeah, when we have proof of the postcards, remember doing the podcast, and we're actually streaming live on Instagram right now. So Julie and I are trying to juggle all of our media.
Indeed.
But we were, this is day 4, day 4, and you can see Zoe in the back seat with her, if you're on the Instagram live right now. And this is Real Estate Coaching Radio, and we are going to be broadcasting live every single day. This is not the normal podcast that we do. It's going to be a lot less formal, and we are going to always focus it back in on real estate. And I have to say, from the long drive I had today, I was, speaking of real estate, amazed by the difference in not just the, obviously the topography, but also the architecture.
Yes.
I mean, when you got into the different kinds of architecture that was going on across the country, it was really amazing. And we of course know that because we've traveled before, but we've not spent that much time in this part of the United States.
No, and we are, as we said, in New Mexico, and even from one end, Roswell is kind of towards the southern end, up to where we are now on the northern end of Taos. The architecture and the scenery is just so dramatically different.
Yeah, I know. It's fascinating because when you and I have traveled to different parts of the world, there are no real distinct differences between, I would say, mostly residential home styles. They're mostly the same.
There's kind of a European look, and
right.
Parts of Italy can look like parts of Croatia, for example.
Yeah.
And pretty much all the UK has similarities. But yeah, Taos really does have Adobe style, pretty much everything.
Everything. I mean,
even apartment buildings.
You know, it's funny though, when we were in Roswell, I shouldn't have been surprised, but the fact that there was a McDonald's that was basically made in the shape of a
An
UFO,
alien spaceship.
a UFO. I mean, it was crazy.
Even the streetlights had aliens on them.
All right, we're gonna
Hello, my name is Zoe again.
Okay, they'll remember you, Zoe.
Okay.
Well, there's proof that we're broadscasting live.
Indeed.
With Zoe. So as I was thinking, Julie, as we were driving here, that there's a lot of roadside memorials, and it was fascinating where we'd be driving essentially in the desert in the plains before we started driving up in the mountains. You'd still see clusters of flowers around crosses that were on the roadside. And they were not that frequent, fortunately, but they were definitely noticeably. And the thing, it always fascinated me, and I don't know, I had this epiphany before, but never did I see it so, I think, obvious, was that with regards to, you would be driving along, obviously you're blazing, this car is really fast, and we're driving with other really fast cars, and we were doing 80, 90, 100 miles per hour through, with nobody else around. And then all of a sudden there'd be this old, whatever it was, fence post or whatever, and sure enough, someone at some point had killed themselves on that fence post by hitting it or having a car accident near it. And I mean, it sounds dramatic, but we did see that. Hey Zoe, chill, sister. We did see that more frequently than we didn't, and it's the same thing we see when we've traveled all over parts of the U.S. And it became obvious to me that the reason that that happens is because when people are driving, they must somehow, when losing control of their vehicles, start focusing on where they don't want to go.
Because it's mostly on curves or into poles. Or we see it in Puerto Rico, where the road kind of gets a little narrower. It's almost like some kind of miscalculation, underestimation, looking at something they shouldn't be looking at. So I think your point is look where you want to go, not where you don't want to go.
Well, it's from when I used to race cars. I did amateur racing, and I took and I had to get certified, and you had to get your licenses, and you had to do your SCCA stuff. And I remember the instructors always said, look in the direction you want to go, not in the direction that your car is going.
Right.
And I thought that's something that I don't know if they're intentionally being philosophical, but that's definitely true. Because in your life, if you're looking in the direction that you're not wanting to go, for example, if you're headed towards some tree and that's where your focus goes, your subconscious mind is actually going to steer your car in that direction. And that's something I learned when I was learning how to race cars.
Right.
Same thing. As you're sliding off the road, the last thing you want to do is if you start looking in the direction that you're sliding, you're going to have all kinds of problems. And I think that's definitely true for people's lives as well.
Yes, and so as we were driving, that came to mind as sort of a life lesson, right?
Yeah, and
a bit of coaching for you.
And the other thing is because we're in such a different part of the world, even for us, having lived in Texas is still pretty extreme.
Yeah.
With all the ranches, the massive cattle ranches we saw, and the massive just wild horse populations we saw. It was incredible. But we were listening to some local radio, and they were talking about the fact that the hog problem in Texas, and they were talking. Actually, this is a little bit of a podcast too, and it was a little bit of a AM radio station we were just picking up as we were leaving Texas and we were driving into New Mexico. They're talking about the fact that when normal farm raised pigs, I know this sounds crazy. Remember, this is real estate coaching radio.
Little did they know.
I'm just thinking as I'm talking how insane this sounds if this is the first time
know.
someone's listened to this. Or they're watching us in Instagram thinking, what the hell does this have to do with real estate? Nothing really, but this is just something I'm sharing with all of you, and hopefully our longtime loyal listeners won't.
We'll reel it in eventually.
We think
Maybe
we will?
not.
Maybe. I don't know. Well, so yeah, they're talking about the fact that if your normal pig were to escape its pig pen, as it were, a normal hog leaves the pig pen, and doesn't have any hair, it doesn't have any tusks, it has a short
your standard
snout.
issue pink piggies, basically.
Yeah, basically, as the ones from Wilbur, from whatever. As soon as the pigs were to escape, they actually it's not even like months. It was, I believe, within weeks, the pigs start actually physically changing. To the point where the pig that had no hair starts to grow long tufts of hair. Their snouts get larger, and they start to grow. The males start to grow tusks.
Don't they even change color to like normal?
Yeah,
wild
they
pig
said
color?
that. They said that, and they also said that there was 4 different kinds of pigs, and none of them were indigenous to Texas, and all of them were brought in by I think they said what was it, DeSoto, the Spanish
via Mexico.
Exactly. We're bringing most of them in because when they're quote unquote settling that part of Texas, for example, or different parts of the coasts where they dropped them in off the Gulf Coast, that they wanted to populate that area and had to put in pigs so that the people that were going to eventually live there had something to hunt, right, and eat. So in any event, I thought that was an interesting thing, again rolling into some sort of obscure mindset point that I'm getting to. But it is fascinating that you become the environment that you're around, and I'm not comparing people to pigs, but I mean it's a good example. So if those pigs were in their previous pig environment, right, of the the pig pen, they are completely physically different than they are when you put them in a different environment. So the pigs are in the pig pen, they're like you expect them to be, they're domesticated farm animals to some degree, and then as soon as they set free, their snouts get bigger. Why do their snouts get bigger, by the way? Because they're rooting around for things to eat.
They eat 'em.
Here's the other thing that I remember. They said that the pigs will be they learn to not be around, they learn to be nocturnal. So normal farm pigs aren't nocturnal, but as soon as they escape and switch flips in their brains, they realize they have to start being nocturnal so they aren't seen by not predators other than humans. Isn't that fascinating?
It's very interesting.
I mean, and again, that goes back, again, that's an obscure mindset point, I suppose.
But you're a product of your environment.
You're a product of your environment, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other thing I'm noticing as we're driving into different parts of the country is that people really, really look really different.
Yes.
I don't know how else to say it. I mean, where we are in Taos, New Mexico, we're seeing a lot of people that obviously exercise, and this is in the winter, this place is all about skiing.
It's
and
a sporty environment.
Right,
kind of.
and you can tell that people look massively different than some of the other places we've been.
True.
I don't know how my head or my brain went from talking about pigs to talking about people, but
I don't know. You may need a break.
I may need a break, yeah. But so what are you observing from our experience thus far?
I was thinking about, we started the day in Roswell because, we have kind of a fleeting, interest in this whole alien business, and we've followed that from time to time, and the reporting on that varies from the sublime to the ridiculous for sure. And a lot of it was very campy, but then there's also the scientific stuff. I forget the name of where we went to, the UFO Museum and Scientific Research Center, which was also very, roadside campy type of thing. But what I was noticing, was a lot of sort of overly interested guys looking. I think they were spending like the whole day there looking.
No,
at
it
alien
was
stuff.
it was a people were staying for like several days there to go to all the
All
alien
of the alien
tchotchke
stuff.
stores.
Yes.
I mean, frankly, I was ready to get out of there after about 15 minutes.
I know. So it's like, okay, so there's that. But then I also was noticing, like, maybe because some of the displays were so artsy-fartsy, put together, is how skeptical in general people are. Like, oh, that's just a myth or whatever. And yet there's this scientific stuff the government is putting out about actual Navy officers observing actual, I think they've renamed them. They're not UFOs anymore. They're something else that sounds a little less threatening. So I was just kind of was watching.
You're
people's
talking about
behavior.
that report that came out 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So in case you guys don't know this, frankly, if you don't know it, you're probably going to live a long,
You'll be
healthy
fine.
life. You'll be fine. You don't need to know this. But if you're just mildly curious, there was a report that came out, I think it was 2 weeks ago, that frankly, it didn't really reveal anything. But in essence, it basically said the government is acknowledging the fact that I think they're UAEs, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
unidentified something.
Right. When you do that, Julie, you're going to make the fan speed. You're
Sorry,
going to make the
I'm
fan
turning up.
louder. Right. So we're going to go with that. So the reality of it is that they are admitting now that there's some UAEs, and they are admitting right now that the fact is that the people are going to, they're going to have to eventually come to terms with the heck these things are.
Mm-hmm.
So all right, I'll turn on the air conditioning since you're nicely complaining. All right. So
It's fine.
yeah, there you go. Better.
Yes, thank you. We're going from being in the sun to air conditioning.
And
back.
remember where we were when we started the day, it was 100 degrees, now it's
Yes.
72.
Yes.
Right. So as far as the alien stuff goes, who knows, right? I
Who
mean, at the
knows?
end of the
Just
day.
curious to see how people take in the information and, put it in the grinder and what they end up thinking about it. So that's where we started the day. And then we just arrived here in Taos, which is beautiful. We went through an incredible rain shower, maybe lasted, 20 minutes. And the temperature dropped 30 degrees.
Yeah.
And so, of course, Zoe wanted to know if it was going to snow.
It dropped 30 degrees in like 5 minutes.
It was
I want it
amazing.
to snow.
It might snow, Zoe.
You
Just be
never know.
patient.
We are
We
in the
might get some
mountains.
snow. Yep.
When?
But it smells really good because there's so many just
Smells
different
weird.
plants. It's weird to you, but it's normal to people who live around here, and it's just refreshing. So that's part of our big adventure. But when we were driving through when we're all that land on either side of the road, and I was thinking, I hope that people have the opportunity to see not just there's the open road, that's fine, but not just hundreds of acres or thousands of acres. I'm pretty sure we were looking at millions of acres
Oh,
on
it's
either
incredible.
side. And it would have a little ranch entrance, so-and-so's ranch, but you couldn't really tell what they were ranching until you looked way off hundreds of acres and you'd see a herd of tiny little dots, which had to be cattle. These are major operations.
Do you remember when we were in Montana, and this was years ago, and we were in Big Sky, and we were looking, it was around the 4th of July, which is ironically around the same time
Right.
that we're here. And I remember looking up at the sky, and you could actually see, because the sky was so clear, you could actually see the bend of the
Yes,
atmosphere.
I
and
think
the,
we might. If it
do you
clears
remember
up
that
a little.
though?
Yes.
That was amazing.
Just
So
amazing.
what we experienced when we were driving here was something very similar, because obviously you couldn't see the curvature of the earth from the ground level, but the fact that you could see for so many miles, and those had to be hundreds of, it's even possible it was even more than that,
It was
that we
amazing.
were able to see on both sides. And it's extraordinary too, because we were often out there driving by ourselves, and nobody else was driving there. Zoe, can you chill, sister? Doing your best.
It's been a long day for
She's
her.
she's been in the car
Yeah.
for 5 hours. She's doing good though. Yeah, so those are the types of things visually that once you see them, it sort of does cause something internal. At least I feel it,
It's amazing.
to give you a bit of a hard reset.
It does. It's good to be just out in a different environment, seeing different things. So that's pretty much our take on the day. This was not a super long driving day. We're still in the same state, for example. But we're staying in a lovely place, by the way, if you guys
Yeah.
ever get up here to Taos, El Monte Sagrado, which I believe means the sacred mountain. So, and I think there's a spa around here somewhere, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're working towards. Yeah. Okay, where are we going after this? What's the next
I
destination?
think we'll walk around Taos. Oh, after this, we'll
Yep.
be driving north to Colorado and eventually end up in Estes Park.
So maybe we stay in Taos maybe tomorrow too?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
down with that.
Okay, and we'll go up to Estes Park, and then after that, we're going to definitely head towards Montana.
Indeed.
Okay,
That
so
is the
we'll
plan.
we'll give, if you are in or around Taos, New Mexico, and you want to hang out for Julie and I, will be here, and Zoe, who's about the end of her
Patience level.
patience. I think she's about to blow a baby fuse, so we're gonna have to run this podcast a little bit early.
Yes.
So Zoe, you have anything you want to say? Here's your microphones. You want to say anything, little girl? So yeah, go ahead, talk. No,
Hello.
don't be silly. What do you want to say about? What do you think about the trip so far?
This is so funny. We're at a really fancy hotel, but we're in the car right now.
That's right. That is funny. Why are we at a really fancy hotel and still sitting in
I
the
don't
car?
know.
That is a good observation.
Good point.
So Zoe, what do you think? So we're listening to a book called The Graveyard Book.
Yes, by Neil Gaiman, Gaiman.
And Zoe, what do you think about the book?
I like it.
You like it or love it?
Yeah, both.
Okay, can you tell everyone what the book is about?
You tell her.
It's pretty complicated.
It is, and this is the second or third time that you and I have
Yeah.
listened to it. It's Zoe's first time. But if you guys have a chance to listen to something that's off of the real estate menu,
Yesterday was the
which is
first
good for
time.
you. Yep.
This is the second time.
It's the Graveyard Book.
Well, we're finishing the book. Right?
Yeah,
Probably
we are
tomorrow.
finishing the book.
Did we already finish it?
No,
Almost.
tomorrow, sweetie. Tomorrow. Yep. So there you go.
Yes.
That's today's podcast.
We're gonna wrap.
We're
go
gonna
with something.
when we have a little bit more to talk about with you guys, we certainly will. But in the meantime, thank you for all your great feedback on our experience so far. And we are on the road for 2 months, and we are obviously visiting different towns and communities. We're going to be podcasting live every workday, and we're going to be sharing with you some of our experiences. We are posting a ton of pictures on Instagram, and if you're not following us on Instagram, it's at Tim and Julie Harris. And this podcast should have been streamed live on Instagram, and hopefully this is another way for us to communicate with all of you our experience. What are you doing? You know this camera's working? They're watching you.
That's because I want to say something.
Okay, go ahead and say something.
So, if you have any kids who like Marvel, a thing that they definitely like is Micro Pops.
Micro Pops, okay.
Marvel Micro Pops.
And they're superheroes from Marvel, and I have this one.
All right, that's very cool, Zoe.
That'll work.
All right, you guys have a fantastic day. And again, follow us on Instagram. If you guys want to meet up with us, you can text me at 512-758-0206, and we'll figure out a way to have our paths cross. Have a fantastic day. We'll give you your next live update from the road tomorrow.
This program has been a presentation by Tim and Julie Harris, Real Estate Coaching. For more information on our real estate coaching and training programs, visit our website at timandjulieharris.com. Remember to tune in weekdays at noon for upcoming shows, and until next time, thank you for listening to Real Estate Coaching Radio with Tim and Julie Harris.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.